So now we've got our basic model, it's up and running, we have some control over it. But what if we discover we really want there to be something within the model that every single turtle in the model could access, and every patch and every link and everything like that? Well, we can add what are called global properties or global variables to the model. And we do this by going up before any of the procedures are defined, and we write the word globals. And then we can add the value in there. So for instance, let's say there's a value that describes the wealth of the system. We can just add a global value called wealth, right? And this is not the wealth of a particular individual, but just how wealthy the society is, for instance. And then we can go into the setup procedure, and we can say set wealth 100, right? And the observer can modify this value, but the turtles can too. So for instance, at each of the time steps, we could have each of the turtles add some wealth. Let's say they are working in their jobs, doing a good job, and they add a little wealth to the system at each time step. Now that adds a global variable to the overall system, right? But we could also add a variable for each of the individual turtles. So we could say that the turtles own a variable or a property called income, right, which is the amount of income that they are currently getting. And we can set that income to be, say, a random value in the initialization step of 100. So some turtles are born with more income than others. And then we can have the wealth actually be a product of the wealth plus the income of that particular turtle, right? And once we've done this, right, now we have properties defined at both the turtle level and the global level, and we can have as many as we want up here. For instance, we could have fuzziness, we could have job, right, things along those lines to describe it. And once we've done all that, they actually are added into the model. So if we hit setup, when we hit go now, if we look at one of these turtles, you'll see now that they have an income, they have a fuzziness, and they have a job. These aren't set to anything because we didn't set them in the model, but the income is set to a value. And if we look at another turtle, using the turtle monitors, is what these little inspectors are called, right? You can see that that turtle has a different value. By the way, you can also inspect turtles from the command line. So you can say inspect one of turtles, and this will just pull a random turtle up for you to take a look at in the model, right? So, right, okay, there we go. And of course, the wealth is also there. So we can use the print command, which we haven't discussed yet, but we can print a variable, and in this case, after a certain amount of time, the wealth is 442,180. Just an arbitrary number. Now, so far, we haven't talked about what that time is, right? And you'll notice that there's this thing called ticks at the top of the NetLogo model window, but it's not set to anything right now. Well, what we often do within a model is we actually have a tick go by. And the way a tick goes by is that we tell NetLogo a tick has gone by, and that allows it to iterate certain functions within the model. So we can say reset ticks at the beginning of the model to tell it to start over again. And then at the end of every go step, we say tick to indicate a step has gone by. Now if we go back over to our model and hit setup and go, you'll see that the ticks counter actually increments. And if we look at our wealth, we now know this is 270,000 wealth over 52 ticks. And we'll talk as we go forward about how you can then use that to plot things and look at the interesting relationships. And ticks are also used for building the plots within NetLogo and other aspects of the model, so they're very important. Finally, let me just mention, we talked a little bit about repeat, for instance, early on, which is one of the control structures within NetLogo. You can also ask it to do things on a conditional basis. So let's say that we only want wealthy people to donate to be counted in the overall wealth of the system. We can say if the income is greater than 50, then set wealth plus income. Otherwise, don't, right? And this kind of adds a little conditional to what's going on. And just to make sure that this works, let's set the wealthy people's color to be red, so we can see that they're actually executing this command correctly. And so sure enough, when we hit go, now we see that the wealthy people are red. If we inspect this turtle, it will have a wealth over 50, and it does. It has a wealth of 64, and this allows us some control over the system. So I just kind of want to get you the idea that you can write very complex structures. You can add properties to the NetLogo model. You can build control structures that allow you to make conditional decisions. And in the next series of lectures, we're going to talk about how to actually build our first model now that we have some basic ideas of some of the commands. Thanks.